Hey everyone, my name is Dillon Gonzalez. I'm the editorial director for GeekVibesNation.com and also a co-host of the Home Dance Film Festival podcast. And welcome to a brand new episode of No Streaming Required, your weekly deep dive into all the latest and greatest in the world of physical media. And this week's episode is a doozy. I have a ton of titles that I'm going to try to get through. We have blockbusters in 4K. We have tons of Asian cinema, stuff from like 88 Films and Eureka, tons of genre titles, and some lighthearted stuff also to complement things. It's a really fun episode, and since I do have a ton of titles, I'm going to try not to spend too much time on any individual title, but if you want more of a deep dive into each of these, pretty much every one of these titles will get a written review on GeekVibesNation.com, so make sure to tune into there within like a week or so of this episode being posted, and you'll probably find a written review of this. But otherwise, I have a lot of great stuff to show you, and I'm going to just dive right in. My first one, I was so excited to finally own. This is a 4K Ultra HD of Twister. I don't think I have to explain too much of this. Bill Paxton, Helen Hunt, a couple that is on the verge of divorce, but they are coming together once again to on their little tornado chasing team to hunt down tornadoes to try to study them and all that. And they have an array of different people, including like Philip Seymour Hoffman and oddly Todd Field, the director of Tar and In the Bedroom and stuff. He is one of the actors, and just a ton of great character performers in here. So yeah, it's a tornado chasing movie, big blockbuster from the 90s. We're about to get a sequel here within a few days of this video being released, which I'm very excited about. But this movie used to scare the crap out of me whenever I was a kid in the 90s. Watching this, especially the opening scene of the young Helen Hunt losing her dad in the tornado. Spoiler alert, but it's the opening scene. But like, it used to imbue this like healthy fear of tornadoes, which really tapped into something that like slashers just never touched on. Like I was fine with those, but tornadoes scared the shit out of me. I've always loved this movie. I've always found it entertaining, but unfortunately I've never owned it before. But I've heard that the Blu-ray, which there is not a Blu-ray copy included in this, it's just the 4K disc. I heard the Blu-ray was kind of lacking, so I've been waiting for a 4K upgrade of this one, it finally hit, and it delivered in every way I wanted to. This movie has always been so much fun. The effects work of the 90s still hold up pretty well today, like the digital effects work, the tornadoes. It's a good blend of like practical effects just with digital interwoven, and then just supported by a strong human human element between the characters that really keep you grounded. Director Jan de Bont, who did like Speed and The Haunting, which The Haunting isn't the best, but Speed is a classic. He directed this one, and he mentions in one of the new special features that there were some things that he wanted to accomplish on this movie that he didn't quite have the chance to whenever he first made it. Notably, which is a little bit controversial, he wanted to make the sky at certain parts a little bit more green than they were able to whenever they first filmed it, which would kind of indicate, which in real life sometimes happens, that like a tornado is approaching and you're about to get your shit wrecked. And then there's a few other like kind of like digital things I think he kind of smoothed over with this new 4K restoration. So absolute purists may balk at some of the changes, but I think that the green integration, it's pretty. It's not overwhelming. It's a little. I think it's tastefully done, and I didn't personally mind it. But if you're a strict purist, you may balk at some of the small changes. I think there's also been some audio cues that may have been added just to kind of like flesh things out a little bit. This transfer is fantastic. It's HDR10 4K restoration. It looks really great. Crisp, like lines and black, like deep black levels, like really strict detail. The blending of this CGI with the real world, it still holds up very well. And then you have a Dolby Atmos soundtrack that really rocks your room. Like it's just so immersive. It's one of the most immersive Atmos tracks I've ever heard. It gives you all the power that you want from a movie about like world-shaking tornadoes that just like like alter you forever. It's fantastic. A lot of great overhead activity. And then there's also, I mentioned, some new special features along with some of the older special features, including a new 16-minute retrospective with Jan de Bont, who kind of talks about the movie and just some of his changes and just like how he's lived with over the past years. There's also another retrospective which was done a little bit, like probably a decade ago or more, before Bill Paxton's passing, which is a 29-minute retrospective. And then there's also a commentary track with Jan and the visual effects supervisor, and then another 14-minute making of, like, HBO featurette. I believe that there is like a storm chasing History Channel thing that wasn't carried over from the Blu-ray, so if you have that, you might want to hang on to it and make this like a combo pack yourself. But otherwise, really great special features, great audiovisual presentation, and this movie is just so much fun. I've always really loved it, and it still holds up today. It's just one of those, like, just like, to my mind, I know it's not literally perfect, but it's like one of those perfect blockbusters that you want. It's like the platonic ideal of just like a big blockbuster. And I watched this like on the 4th of July, and it was great. It was awesome. My next title comes from the Criterion offshoot, Janus Contemporaries, and that is Anselm, from director Wim Wenders. I also, out around the same time, is his movie Perfect Days, which was nominated for International Feature earlier this year. That's coming out on 4K from Criterion, just for those who care. Here's a little booklet that has a little essay on this title. This Perfect Days was a narrative, which was really great. This is a documentary that came out around the same time as Perfect Days in theater. So Wim Wenders, he had a big closeout of 2023. Anselm, this kind of sees him more playing in the realm of movies like Pina, which also, in case you didn't get to see, this includes two discs. There's a 3D Blu-ray and a regular Blu-ray. So similar to Pina, there are two discs in here that you can choose to watch in 3D or 2D. I will say up front that I am not 3D equipped in this way. If it was like a red-blue like presentation, like classic glasses, I of course watch those when they're available. But like a actual 3D television setup and 3D player, I don't have that, so I'm not able to judge the effectiveness of the 3D. But I did throw in the 3D disc to see if I could see anything, and it actually played pretty much similarly to the Blu-ray, so I would assume if I did have a proper 3D player that then it would kind of kick in, but that's just my experiences. But the movie itself, Anselm, it is a documentary. It is about a famous painter. I believe he's German. But I kind of struggled with this one because I found the imagery that Wim Wenders was capturing quite beautiful. And just like, this is a very slow, meditative documentary where you are kind of just immersed in this artistic world and just appreciating the beauty of both what this painter has created, and also there's elements of like recreation to like represent different points of him as like as a boy or like in his like 40s, which is interestingly played by some of his family members, which he did not know while they were filming. Wim Wenders, he kind of like contacted them covertly and made that happen. But there's some really great stuff in here. Like, there's one of my favorite moments is when there's like the Anselm, he is doing like a controlled burn on a canvas. So there's like all these like big bushes and like kind of like leaves and stuff that are on this artistic canvas that he is like strategically taking a flamethrower to, and there's some people behind him who are like hosing it down after it's like burned to his satisfaction, which I found that to be a really interesting part of his process. But this being like a right around a 90-minute movie, it felt much longer just because of how just like they kind of lingered on different moments and shots and stuff. And I do appreciate slow cinema at times, and I'm not like a complete just like dismissive of just like artistic endeavors, but for me, personally, I just found to be like have my attention waning a little bit too much, and the structure was a little bit kind of impregnable in terms of me getting invested in the artist himself. It was really like kind of very abstract to the point of just like exhaustion to me. I wanted to get to know this creative figure, but I didn't really feel like I knew him. I got some of his ideas, but it didn't really click with me emotionally in that way that I really needed to. It's probably something that can grow on me in future viewings, but just this initial viewing is just kind of a little bit kept me at arm's length. But the presentation is fantastic, at least the Blu-ray that I watched. It's a brand new movie. It was shot in 6K and presented on Blu-ray, but it's like super crisp and clear. Very beautiful presentation. Sounds great. There's a very brief 16-minute interview with Wim Wenders where he talks about the process of making this and just his journey, which is it's a great addition. This is one of the titles, along with Perfect Days, like I talked about. You can get both of those this month. There is a Criterion sale happening at Barnes & Noble. It's half off of the MSRP. So for this one, this would be $15 on sale, which I think is a great value, especially since you're getting a 3D Blu-ray as well. And then the Perfect Days would be $20 to $25, depending on if you get Blu-ray or 4K. So just if you're looking for a deal, just remember the Criterion sale is on, and you can get those or any other of the past Criterion titles I've talked about in previous installments. There's so many great titles that I would recommend. But yeah, if you're a Wim Wenders fan, it's worth checking this out. It's why I wanted to check it out. It's just you had to have patience with this one, and I'm not sure I had the patience on the first viewing for this one that I quite needed. Something that didn't really require patience is more just very surface level. So I don't know what that says about me. This is a 4K Ultra HD release of Phantoms from Scream Factory. This is a title that's been kind of maligned since the 90s when it came out, but I don't find it to be bad. It's not perfect, but it's pretty solid, like sci-fi thriller territory. One of the things I do want to know, like, I hope everyone just kind of spams my comments with saying how Ben Affleck was the bomb in this, because whenever I wrote the announcement article for this, and every time I've seen this and talked about since they announced this on 4K, everyone lovingly talks about how Ben Affleck is the bomb in Phantoms, yo. So all my Kevin Smith fans, I hear you, I see you, I'm one of you. I was saying the same thing. But Ben Affleck, is he the bomb in Phantoms? Debatable. He's probably one of the weaker links, like kind of like almost like a kid playing dress up as like the sheriff in town. But he does a fine job. This is about a group of people. It starts off really great. It starts out with a girl bringing her sister to the town where she lives, and whenever they come back, pretty much everyone from town has disappeared. It's just kind of like a desolate town. They don't know what the hell has happened. They come across like a few bodies, and they're just like, what is going on? They eventually come across some other people, including Ben Affleck and Liev Schreiber, who are some like law enforcement people, and you kind of start to understand what is going on. This is based on a Dean Koontz novel, and it really has kind of to me had kind of a feeling of almost like Frank Darabont, like The Mist mixed with I don't know, like John Carpenter's like The Thing, like kind of like a mixture in between the two. There are like some creature things going on that like really amp up in the second half, but I think it gets a little less great, I guess. It's still entertaining, I think, and overall I think it's a really solid like horror sci-fi movie, and it has some really great practical effects which I really appreciated. There are some digital effects, and those hold up pretty well. I think it does what I really appreciate whenever digital effects complement practical effects, and they don't just like completely go digital just for the hell of it. It kind of makes things a little bit more timeless, which I appreciate. Performances are decent. I mean, Rose McGowan, she does a really good job. Peter O'Toole is in this movie, which blows my mind. He doesn't show up for a while, but he is there, and he's there. It's great. Just like Peter O'Toole being in this silly movie. Great times. And Liev Schreiber is doing the most in a complimentary way. He makes this movie. I had fun with this. So yeah, it's not high art, but Phantoms. in 4K is not what I knew I needed. And it looks really great on 4K. 4K restoration from the original camera negative, approved by the director in Dolby Vision, and it looks very nice. Really dark, deep, dark black levels, some really good shadow details. Just like, this is a movie that takes plays a lot in darkness, and so you want deep black levels, and that really works. No blown highlights from what I could see. Everything seems pretty well maintained. Really good details and stuff. I didn't see any digital fuckery. This is just a really nice transfer, and DTS 5.1 sounds great. In terms of special features, this is a collector's edition, but it's not jam-packed with special features. You do get an interview with the producer and the director of photography, but that's pretty much it. It's a couple new interviews, and this in 4K with Dolby Vision. If you're a fan, this is a really great release, and I'm glad they did it. It's just one that I wasn't really expecting, but I will take all these old Dimension titles in 4K. I'm here for it. And speaking of, this is kind of like a missed opportunity, because another one of those Dimension titles out on Blu-ray is Dracula 2000. Yes, Blu-ray, which is, I'll explain why this is more baffling here in a little bit, but first, for the movie itself, this is one of those titles that I would see all the time, like the cover, see it all the time whenever I used to go in the local video store, and I was just like, okay, I'll watch that movie eventually, and here we are 20 plus years later, and I'm just now seeing it. And don't let this Wes Craven Presents fool you too much. He was an executive producer, but he's not the director. This movie is fine. It's aggressively fine, I think. There's some fun moments. It's about like a group of people who are trying to rob a museum at the beginning in modern day. And they stumble across a tomb and end up unleashing Dracula, and it's in the form of sexy Gerard Butler, who I did not recognize for a long time because he didn't have like his facial hair and stuff, and he's younger. This was like early aughts or 90s. I guess Dracula 2000, it would be early aughts. But almost unrecognizable to me, Gerard Butler. And so this has a really great cast. You have Johnny Lee Miller, Omar Epps, Jennifer Esposito, Christopher Plummer. Speaking of, just like with Peter O'Toole in the last one, Christopher Plummer being in here just elevates this completely. And you have Danny Masterson, who's a problematic figure now, but he is in there for that 70s show fans. Then, like I said, Gerard Butler and a bunch of other people. Jerry Ryan from Star Trek. It's great. It's a typical like tale of just like Dracula being unleashed and just like killing people, and like there's a lot of deaths in here that like I'm like, oh, that person's pretty famous. They're not gonna die, and they died pretty quickly. Yeah, of course some of them are turned undead, but still a lot of people were dispatched more quickly than I expected. And it kind of builds up to just like kind of an expected finale of just like a showdown with Dracula, and just like he has like these ties to this other woman who's kind of like haunted by visions of him, and trying to figure out what's all going on with that. It's not the best movie. It's passable horror entertainment, very slick, like early aughts horror style. It's not like a hidden gem, but it is good enough that I'm baffled that they did a 4K scan of the original camera negative that has been approved by the director, and they put it on Blu-ray, not on 4K. I'm puzzled, especially since Phantom's got a 4K. And this one, even more so than Phantom's, has a ton of special features. So this would have been like a perfect collector's edition. One thing I will say though, for it being released on Blu-ray, it has been released on Blu-ray before, but almost every one of them has been strangely cropped and not in 1080p. It's been like in 1080i from what I've researched. So this is an upgrade, not just because it's like in a 4K restoration, but it's just like the previous versions, say for like 1 2-pack, I think they have been compromised in certain ways. So you are finally getting to see this on its own, not in a 2-pack sharing a disc. You get the right aspect ratio, and it's in 1080p, and it does look very nice for what it is. It looks like a really nice 4K restoration, nice details, colors are really great, nice like clarity. I don't think you'll be disappointed if you have been wanting a nice presentation, but if you're going to do a 4K restoration of the original camera negative, put it on 4K. That's all I'm saying. there's also a nice amount of special features, like I said. So there are 2 commentary tracks. One's like a port over of a previous commentary with the director. One's a new film historian commentary track. You get 3 new interviews, which are really great. And one's like almost 50 minutes long with the director. It's very informative, very honest, which is almost worth it for the price alone. Some deleted scenes and some audition footage. Tons of special features. So if you're a fan of Dracula 2000, this Blu-ray does very nice, but where's the 4K? That's all I'm saying. I'm not like a 4K or nothing guy, but for this one, it just seems like all the pieces were right there and they just couldn't quite put it over the finish line. And some might say that for this next title, but I'll explain. It's more understandable for this one. Another critically maligned movie, John Frankenheimer's 90s abomination, The Island of Dr. Moreau. So, yes, this is very notorious. Here's the reversible cover art here. Val Kilmer, Marlon Brando. What is Marlon Brando doing here? So, you can see the original art that I've already reversed underneath. There, and no booklet or anything like that, but like interesting cover art. This makes it look a lot better than you think it would. It is based on the H.G. Wells story that's been adapted a couple times, but this particular version really was a blemish on a lot of people's careers. I don't think it deserves all of the hate, but it is kind of a baffling movie because everyone seems like they're in different movies. It is about a man who is rescued from the sea for reasons, rescued by Val Kilmer, brought to this island where Marlon Brando, fast forward, he is conducting experiments. He's a geneticist that's trying to create the perfect being, and is combining human and animal DNA and creating this monstrous hybrids and stuff, and he's just trying to play God basically. So, and it is Marlon Brando hamming it up, doing his thing. Val Kilmer seems like he is trying to actively sabotage the movie. David Thewlis, a lot of people might know as Lupin from Harry Potter. He's giving it a legit great performance and really taking this seriously, and everyone else is kind of in a different movie. Veruza Balk's in here, and I really love her from The Craft and Waterboy and stuff. There are things I do quite like about this movie. The practical effects, I think they were done by Stan Winston. They hold up very well, and I do like that level of practicality of just them trying to make these horrific monstrous figures that lends some kind of air of just tactileness that I appreciate for a movie like this. Narratively, it is all over the place, and it's just kind of tonally strained. It just doesn't quite fit together. I think, and John Frankenheimer, he's a legend. I just recently rewatched The Manchurian Candidate, the original one. It's great. I watched so much from him. He does a great job, but for this effort later in his life, it just didn't quite come together, unfortunately. I do think there is a Blu-ray that's a separate documentary on the making of this movie from Synapse Films or Severin, one of those. So I'm interested to look at that and to really get to understand why this movie was such a disaster, which I don't think a disaster, but production-wise, I think it's a disaster. Creatively, it's more of a mixed bag for me because there are things that I like within this. I should note that this includes both the director's cut, which has been the most common cut. That's the one that's been given the new restoration. There's also the theatrical cut, which I think has only been released on Laserdisc prior to this. I think it's been missing in action. It's not been the one that's been restored, but I think people will appreciate, just for novelty's sake, having that theatrical cut available just readily, because I think it's just not been. This has been given a new 2K scan of the inner positive, and I think it looks nice. I don't have the previous version to compare it to, but nice detail and everything. Like I said, Dracula 2000 4K restoration, original camera negative. Why not the 4K? This coming from a 2K scan of the inner positive, I'm a little bit more forgiving of it not getting a 4K for that reason. Yes, this had a Blu-ray previously, but this should be an improvement on that one. It's been around for a while. and then you get a couple new special features, and then the theatrical cut, like I said. So you get a new interview and a making of featurette, which is not new, I believe, and pretty nice packaging. But would I like a 4K? Yes, but I did not get it, and this Blu-ray release, it does a trick if you're a fan. It's just not the greatest movie. My next title, another one from Shout Studios, their Shout Select line. This is Over the Edge. This was one I was really excited to get my hands on because they released this one a few years back overseas from Arrow Video, and I had just never gotten around to importing it, so I'm glad it's finally got a US release. I will say that this cover art makes it kind of seem like the children are like demons or something, or supernatural. It's not quite that. It's more so about a group of kids led by Matt Dillon in his first starring role, I believe, or maybe screen appearance, because it had an introducing credit to Matt Dillon. About a group of kids living in this planned community where like some opening text talks about how the adults don't realize that the children are like a quarter of the population, and they're not really taking them to account. It's really a story about like the parents of these kids really letting them, just like not keeping them in mind and kind of like giving them the attention that they need to, and they're finding their own way, which includes like vandalism and drugs and like getting into fights and all kinds of stuff. And it just kind of escalates slowly, and just like it kind of becomes like a parents versus the children type situation. And it really escalates, almost to like it feels like you're watching The Warriors almost, because it really starts to like pop off, or like Red Dawn or something. And I think it's a really good like kind of overall lesson. Like the kids aren't great. The parents definitely aren't great also. So I think it's like no one's right, but it's just like everyone needs to kind of give people the proper attention that they need to in order to like be properly parented and stuff. And I think that it's a pretty effective movie in that regards. This is not the exact same as the Arrow version. I believe the Arrow version from overseas was from an older master. This comes from a new 2K scan of the Inner Positive. And I don't have, like I said, I don't have that other release to compare it to, but judging based on what I found online and stuff, it does look like this is a nice refinement, more refined colors that like kind of radiate off the screen a little bit more, some more decent like textures here and there. It's not a perfect transfer, but it mostly resolved very well, and I think it's a nice looking movie for just like this period in time. You do get 2 commentary tracks, 3 interviews, and a 7-part retrospective that's really detailed and stuff. So tons of special features, including some ones that weren't on Arrow Video. There are also some features on the Arrow Video release that's not on here. So if you're a completist, import that. But otherwise, this Shout version is not slipping. It looks and sounds great. And tons of special features. So Over the Edge, good release. Glad Shout released it. Staying on the Shout train, but really going deep into Asian cinema. I'm going on a run here, but staying in the realm of Shout Studios. We have one from released a couple years back. This is Zoo Warriors from the Magic Mountains. From the Magic Mountain. I want to make sure I was getting that correct. So this is a movie. It's had a remake since then in the early 2000s, just called Zoo Warriors. From what I was reading, I think this was actually one of the inspirations for John Carpenter's Big Trouble in Little China. This is a like a wushu tale, but with supernatural tendencies. When you have the phrase of a character called the Blood Devil on the back, you know you're going to like have a really fun time. You do have a bunch of people fighting off against like vampires and stuff. Lots of supernatural fighting and like wushu martial arts and everything. It's a zany time. It moves at like a really, really fast clip. It just moves. But great practical special effects. They're cheesy, but I love it. Just like whenever they're like using different like ribbons and stuff to like represent like fire and everything. It's fantastic. A lot of fun, just like genre stuff going on here. If you're like a Wushu fan and you like something a little bit zany and like supernatural, this is a blast. This comes from a 2K scan, 2K restoration of the original elements, which I'm not sure exactly what that means, but some kind of original elements. And it looks nice. I think it looks really solid. It's perfectly good transfer. And you have a couple different audio options. You have, I believe you have an English dub, and then you have the original soundtrack. You have a commentary track, 3 new interviews, 4 archival interviews, and then the export cut as well, the English export cut. So you do have an English option. So this one is a really good release from Shout, and it's worth checking out if you want something besides just the standard martial arts stuff. Which, if you were a fool, you would say that that's what this next title is, but that I would say not. Iron Monkey, also from Shout Studios. It's more than just like kind of your standard martial arts stuff, but it's really, really good. This was one that I was always wanting to see. Another one I would always see on my local video store, but that was the Miramax cut that like Harvey Weinstein did that kind of compromised everything. I never got to see it, but I'm glad that my first viewing was the original Iron Monkey. But I think this was kind of like brought over to America on the success of like Crouching Tiger and Hero and stuff. So this was just like they were trying to get people hyped about it. But so you do have Donnie Yen and Yu Gong. And it's basically a Robin Hood tale of just like a figure known as Iron Monkey who has been like stealing from the rich and giving to the poor, and Donnie Yen playing a character who is a noble person, not like a person like of nobility, but he's just like a noble man who is like wanting to he volunteers to like help stop this man who he comes to realize is not the like malevolent force that he's been painted to be by the authorities, because he is really just trying to help his community. And it's just like kind of like dealing with those moral implications of like whether he should try to take down this bandit and stuff. And lots of great martial arts stuff going on here. Great character work. It's good. It's a really good movie. It's fun. It's just, if you like martial arts films, this one's been more, this was made in the 90s. It works really well. 2K scanning of the original elements, looks really good. Couple different audio tracks, including an English dub, and sometimes the subtitles on the Mandarin version, I believe, they can kind of like not line up just perfectly, but overall things work out pretty well. Tons of special features, including a commentary track, 3 new interviews, 5 archival interviews, and a featurette. So lots of good stuff going on here. So really glad I got to check this one out. Another martial arts one that I did not respond to quite as well. We have the Crippled Masters from Film Masters, they've rescued a lot of interesting titles here. This one, it's a time. So you have a man with no arms and a man with no legs kind of learning to like train in the martial arts and like take down the master who kind of like made them that way and crippled them and stuff. And you have some real life people with different disabilities who are kind of inhabiting these roles and stuff. And this movie, I liked elements of it, and I thought the action was pretty solid, but I just like kind of how these characters were utilized within the story. I don't know, it made me a little bit unsure, and it just didn't quite set well with me. It is really kind of like a grindhouse style, just like exploitation film. It's fine, it just didn't quite work for me. This comes from it's been restored from a 35mm archival print. So a lot of like color fluctuations, still quite a bit of like damage here and there. It's been restored to the best of its abilities, but it's just like, this was a movie that was almost lost. So the fact that this print survives, they just done the best with what they can. And I believe this is just the English dub version. Oh, there is a option to view the original track but the subtitles are dub titles. The original subtitles for like the original language track are not present. They are subtitles of the English dub, so that's kind of unfortunate. And otherwise, you have a commentary track and a really nice documentary from Ballyhoo. The release is good. It's just the movie itself just didn't quite work for me. Keeping in Asian cinema and going to a series I've covered on two previous occasions, we have the next two sequels. We have The Inspectors Wear Skirts 3 and 4, so I'll show both of those off. So for people who haven't seen, this is from 88 Films, and for people who haven't been following this series, this series I like the first one pretty well, but I thought that the women weren't quite given enough chance to kick as much ass as I wanted, and they were just kind of like bogged down by like some comedy. The second one leaned more into comedy, and I liked that even less, but I still thought it was okay. And now coming to this third and fourth one, I was kind of wondering if I should even check these out, and like, because I hadn't really responded well to the second one, and I just wasn't sure. But I'm glad I did. It's still very problematic in many ways, but I've kind of just given up, might be like a bad phrase to say it, but I've accepted what these movies are, and what they are now for these third and fourth installments, especially the third one. They're basically police academy movies where they've like leaned into kind of like police academy / Zucker Brothers comedy in full tilt. The gags are ridiculously like often misogynistic and just like lowbrow humor, and just like something about these installments, it just kind of like, it just made me be like, okay, this is what we're doing, let's just lean in and just like kind of accept it and just have fun with it. And I had fun with it on its terms. I wouldn't say it's like an amazing artistic achievement, but for what they are, I had more fun with these than the second installment, at least. The third movie finds the women of this like elite team of like women officers. Like it's like the Skirts unit. The third, it ends up like the women going undercover on this boat where like gambling's happening, all these like threats are going on. And then the fourth movie, I kind of had issues with that at the beginning, because at the beginning they really take you through like, okay, this is where this character is and this character is, and some that aren't in the movie that much, and they just kind of feel like they really undercut a lot of the character growth, and like they make like, this movie's always been lowbrow. Like the movie series has a woman who's just known for like smelling especially bad, and then you have a woman that's like sex crazed, and you just have like a woman who's like super dumb, and like some needy one. They're just all exaggerated characters. But the way they treated some of these characters at the beginning of the fourth movie, I was just very mad, because like there's a lot of women, especially like at the beginning of the series, that were like really badass, and then they are relegated to being the wife who has to stay home at the end because they married certain people. It kind of irritates me, but otherwise the fourth movie, it injects some new blood. Some that you might know from the In the Line of Duty franchise, also from 88 Films. I believe that's Cynthia Khan. So there's some new blood, and then like there's kind of like a plot of just like a man trying to get revenge for his dad, and it almost like there's like almost like a Die Hard with a vengeance element, where there's like holding school kids captive and stuff, which I just watched Die Hard with a Vengeance, or else I probably wouldn't have been able to pull that. But overall, these movies, they're fun. They're just very problematic and misogynistic, but them leaning full tilt in a comedy just kind of makes that go down a little bit easier, because you just kind of expect that from comedies from like the 70s and 80s. It's just like they were stupid and like male oriented, and this is just what that is. And it just made it work a little bit better for me. so your mileage will definitely vary. These come from 2K restorations of the original camera negative, and they look really good. This is up to the quality of the first two films. You have the original language track for both of the movies. The fourth movie has an English dub. The third movie does not have an English dub. I think maybe because it had a different distributor for that one. I don't think they made an English dub. There's commentary track on each one of them from Frank Jing, who is a savant for these films, and he's really great information. And some deleted scenes on the third movie, and like a still gallery, I think, on both of them. So yeah, Inspectors Wear Skirts 3 and 4, they're available separately, not together, from 88 Films. Sticking with some Asian cinema, going over to Eureka Entertainment, we have the Double Crossers. I love Eureka. This one, this is pretty solid. This is about a police officer who finds out that his parents were involved like in smuggling, and they were killed. And in order to avenge them, he has to kind of quit the police force and go on a journey of revenge, is what I'm trying to say. So it's just like this wild revenge action tale of just like this man trying to go like undercover with these smugglers and with their who used to work with his parents, and trying to figure out what exactly happened and all that stuff. So it's a revenge tale set in the world of smuggling. There's a lot of crazy action. This was made in the years following the passing of Bruce Lee. So this was I believe Golden Harvest looking for a new action star. It works to some extent, but of course you don't know Chin Sing as much as Bruce Lee. But overall, pretty fun kind of crime film from Eureka. It comes from a 2K restoration, looks very good, very consistent, Hong Kong and English cuts, 2 commentary tracks, and so yeah, good release from Eureka, all the special features, everything. Good release. And my final film in the world of Asian cinema, not my final film by quite a long shot, we have Journey from the Fall from Whole Grain Pictures. This is their second title here, though after their first release a couple months ago of Too Much Sleep. You do have reversible cover art, so I'll show that off here. This is set in the kind of waning days of the Vietnam Civil War, where things are kind of settling, but the country is still in flux. I will say there's the original soundtrack is included in this in addition to the Blu-ray, so that's a pretty cool addition. But yeah, waning days of the Vietnamese Civil War. You have kind of the communist regime who is trying to do some re-education of some of these camps, and it's basically seeing the struggle in Vietnam from the refugees' point of view. And some people are in camp, some people have their families escaping from Vietnam and moving to the US. So you get a really nice dual picture of the experience in these camps, which is heartbreaking, but also the people who make it to the US, how they are treated and how they acclimate, and with the trauma that they have lingering from back home and trying to exist in this new country, with people who are sometimes sympathetic but not completely sympathetic, and just all the things that are and the emotions that are wrapped up in this. This is a 2-hour and 15-minute movie, and it really paces itself very well. It's for the maximum emotional impact. I do believe this was a Sundance movie, which I host a Sundance themed podcast, so that I'm always especially interested in Sundance films, and this really hit for me. I thought it was a really, really great discovery that I'd never heard of before. So I do like whenever these entities like Whole Grain Pictures pop up and they just release something that would have never been on your radar previously. It's a very effective drama, mostly in Vietnamese. There's some English, with the American Principle and stuff, but not too much English. Journey from the Fall, really good movie. This has been restored by Whole Grain Pictures. It looks very nice. You get a commentary track, some deleted scenes, some interviews, and the CD soundtrack. So, Journey from the Fall, check it out if it sounds interesting at all to you. I have another documentary on deck. It's called Dreamtime, or El Tempo del Sogno. Sorry to my Italian speakers here. I just butchered that. But this documentary, more so than Anselm, this disappointed me quite a bit. Because I know Anselm was very well made, and the content just didn't really quite hit. I'm not quite sure this was completely well made. In my opinion, it's not. It seems to be more of it's a documentary that should be right up my alley. It's about this filmmaker making a documentary about Italian horror, and how his theory was that its heyday was like in the 80s to the early, like to mid 90s. And he's going around just talking about to a bunch of people who actually made or participated, like starred in these movies, made these movies, like did like sound work for these movies, all this stuff like that. He is especially, for like the first 40 minutes, very, very much fixated on the Demons films, like especially Demons 1 and 2. And he's just like, this plays like like a really involved special feature, which isn't, I love special features, but this is a different documentary. Like, a documentary is a different thing if you're going to release it on its own. So it's like this filmmaker really just diving deep into like demons, and then like the church and Cemetery Man, and a couple of different other horror movies like into the 90s. But I find the interviewer to be he seems like he is pushing his agenda of just like, a lot of times like, would you agree that like Demons like was probably like one of the last great horror, like he's putting stuff in people's mouths of just being like, I think this, don't you think this? And that's not really how you should go about making a documentary. It seems like he's really had something he wanted to prove, and he's like, I'm gonna go make a documentary so all these people back me up. And not only that, you don't get the clips of these movies to really put stuff into context, which is also a hindrance. You also don't get Dario Argento, who his fingerprints are all over these movies, but we do not get an interview with him. We get an interview with his daughter, and there's some interesting stuff about how like he was as a director, like as compared to a father and stuff. But the connective tissue between all these interviews doesn't quite work for me, and I just really found it to be a frustrating experience in a documentary form, because it is 2 hours long, and it just like, for what we get into, it didn't feel cohesive. And I love Italian horror. I want to know all about this, but it just like, it didn't seem to flow from one thing to another, and just like the point of view that he was driving forward and not getting off of, it just really made this kind of a lackluster experiment, in my opinion. And I have to warn anyone who gets this. This is an Italian production. I started playing this just by pressing play. I was going to watch it in Italian with English subtitles. I started up, no subtitles, and I was like, okay, what the hell? But I went to the, like, I did like my pop-up menu, I made sure the English subtitles were on, nothing came on, and I was like, what the hell's going on? I went to play it in another player. Before I pressed play, I went to subtitles, pressed English subtitles, played, the English subtitles were there. So then I went back to my original player in my den, and then I did the same thing, and the subtitles played. And then I tested it again later. If you just press play, at least for my players, if you just press play without picking English subtitles, you will not see English subtitles, and you will not be able to switch it midway, like from the menu, without like taking out the disc and restarting it and just starting from scratch. So it's I just want that glitch registered for people who are just freaking out that you can't trigger the English subtitles. Try ejecting the disc, selecting the English subtitles, then pressing play. That's my warning to you. And so the movie looks great, sounds good as well. There's like a couple additional interviews that didn't quite make the movie as special features, but overall, a disappointing disc for me. Yeah, I have a soft spot for documentaries, but I want them to be well made, especially if it's about a subject I really love. Going into the world of more undiscovered cinema, rediscovered cinema. This is from MVD Entertainment, and this is the Linguini Incident with David Bowie and Rosanna Arquette, and some other interesting people in here like Buck Henry and Marlee Matlin. This is the reversible cover art that I reversed. So you get a booklet, and I already showed you the other cover art, but that's just the same as the slipcover. So this was a movie from the early 90s that came and kind of went, and just like kind of didn't, it had a cult following, but it just like never really got much love, and now it's finally getting love with a new director's cut from the director. So it's been newly restored and all that. But I think people will probably most notably be interested in this because of David Bowie's presence in this, and he is one of the main characters. It's about a nightclub where like these eccentric people run the nightclub, and they have like more money than God, basically, just like for a shorthand. And people, like all the waitresses and stuff, are always like dreaming of robbing it and stuff, and like if I could only take this money and go off and do my own thing. And then you enter David Bowie, who's kind of like a new bartender person who's mysterious, and Rosanna Arquette is a waitress who is kind of like has dreams of being like a Houdini-esque figure of just like escape artist and all this stuff. She loves magic and all that illusions and stuff. All this is to say, it's basically a heist movie where these two come together, sort of have a flirtatious chemistry along with like her roommate or like her friend, and that kind of gets into like a thing with the three of the, like a romantic triangle with them mixed in with this heist movie. I found this to be a lot of fun. I had never seen this before. It's very charming. It's just like, it has a really offbeat sense of humor. The performers do good. I love seeing Marlee Matlin anytime, but yeah, David Bowie does a nice job. All these people, it's just a fun kind of lighthearted movie. The theatrical cut is included. I did not watch it in full. I did check it. It is presented in standard definition, like a pillar boxed aspect ratio. So this has the original aspect ratio of, I believe, 1.78 by 1. The director's cut has the original aspect ratio, newly restored from the 4K scan of the interpositive. It looks very nice. The director's cut does. It looks very nice and everything. The theatrical cut in standard definition looks a bit rough, but it's there for posterity. But I say this all to say, the director's cut runs about 5 minutes shorter than the theatrical cut, and I did notice some things right off the bat just from a quick comparison. Like there's some quicker setup of just like establishing the stakes in the director's cut via like some text and kind of voiceover stuff. But I like the way the director's cut flows, so if I ever check out the theatrical cut, I can see which is better. But the director's cut really worked for me, and it looks great, courtesy of MVD's 4K restoration. It sounds great too, and this is loaded with special features. 2 commentary tracks, one of which has like the director and then Rosanna Arquette and the other main actress. This was recently done, so of course David Bowie has been deceased for several years. Not that he probably would have participated anyway, but I wish we could have gotten I miss David Bowie. And this has a documentary that is longer than the movie. It's an hour and 45-minute documentary, and has all these people and some more of the actors, including like I said, Marlee Matlin and a bunch of other people discussing the movie for an hour and 45 minutes. And then some trailers and stuff. Loaded to the gills with special features. One of the releases that's like probably lower on the radar, but it'll sneak up on you as one of the greats of at least this month, if not like the year. This is just like a really, really solid release from MVD Entertainment. My next film is Street Scene from BCI Entertainment. This, I have kind of a thing with this movie. Where so whenever I wasn't paying strict attention whenever I got this in, and I just saw this whenever I opened it up, and this isn't how it was presented. I switched the disc because this disc, when I first opened it, was the DVD copy. So I just put it in, I started watching the movie, and I got about like 5 or so minutes in, and I was like, man, this restoration, it's really looking disappointing. What is going on here? And then I clicked it, to information. I was like, oh, this is DVD quality. And then I looked underneath this damn booklet, which I love, and there was the Blu-ray copy. So I started it over, and it got much better but just so know, Blu-ray and DVD copy, make sure you know which one you're putting in, and don't be a dumbass like I was. You get a nice booklet here. Also, whenever I was requesting this, I kind of thought it was a silent movie. It is not. It's just an early talkie. So you have Sylvia Sidney, who is my main draw for this one. I really like her. She's done some really nice work with Fritz Lang. It felt appropriate to watch it now. Set in the summer. It's based on a play where it's like everyone's super hot and sticky in New York, and it's like this apartment building where everyone's in each other's business, and there's people like having affairs that people are gossiping about, and just like people being catty with one another, like, oh, she's like describing people as just like being kind of slutty and stuff, which slut is a concept that shouldn't be in existence, but that's another discussion I won't get into. Overall, for this early talkie, it's a pretty solid, like, kind of hotbed drama, like hothouse drama. There's lots of melodrama going on and everything. The performances are good. It's a very theatrical structure. Like, it's like basically one block that's not explored beyond that very much, and just people talking and making the most out of their performances. Some tragedy happens, but overall it's a pretty solid movie, and I enjoyed it. And VCI, it did a pretty solid job with this. This comes from a 4K restoration. Might have been a little bit of maybe digital smoothing on this one, because I didn't notice as much grain as maybe should be there, but overall it looks pretty nice, and the sound holds up pretty well. Not much in the way of special features. I think there's like a trailer and like a photo gallery and a commentary track from a film historian, which is the most significant one, and definitely helpful to kind of put this into context. But yeah, VCI Entertainment, Street Scene, pretty decent release. A few more here. We got Synapse Films, creature feature, Crocodile. This was originally a Thai film that was re-edited and dubbed and stuff for English. This is the English cut. You cannot see the extended Thai version, which I believe is over 2 hours. This is like 92 minutes. If IMDb is to be trusted, which it isn't always, but just know this is the 92-minute English version of this. It's been dubbed and all that stuff. Creature feature, big creature feature, like nuclear stuff, blah, 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 blah. This is really, it's recreated in a kind of an interesting way where it's like so low rent that you kind of adore it, because it's like getting a miniatures and like a live crocodile to make it look bigger than normal, and it's just kind of filmed that way. And there's some decent attacks here and there, but it's just kind of like a silly genre movie that it's a creature feature, and it's decent, but and there's like, of course, like political subtext of just like, what are we doing to our planet that will create this, blah, blah, blah. But overall, it's a creature feature. It does what it needs to do. The restoration's a little bit inconsistent. It looks nice overall, but there's some color fluctuation. Clarity's nice. It's a 35 millimeter original camera negative scan. There is a commentary track from the late Lee Gambin. There is a 32-minute interview with the director and some deleted and alternate scenes. So Synapse Films, if you like creature features, you'll dig it. It's just like not reinventing the wheel, pretty much. Another genre effort from Cauldron Films, we have Off Balance with Michael York from Austin Powers fame. People might know best. He also was in the, I believe, 70s version of The Island of Dr. Moreau, which I think was interesting since I talked about the 90s version earlier. There's the alternate cover art. This is kind of like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde coded, where Michael York plays a man who has like a medical disease where he is like rapidly aging and progressing and stuff, and it's making him lose his mind, and he starts killing people and stuff. it's pretty solid for Italian horror fans. Edwidge Fenwick is in this. You also have Donald Pleasance from like Halloween fame as well. This is an English language film, and I'm not sure if I ever heard Edwidge speaking in English before, so that was fun. And she's as beautiful as ever, and just a solid kind of like killer movie, killer losing his mind, with a little bit of like grotesque like makeup work and everything going on. So off balance, it's a pretty decent movie, and this comes from a 2K restoration of the original camera negative. It looks very nice. It's a good presentation, nice colors, consistent, nice textures. Commentary track and director interview that runs about 33 minutes. So Cauldron Films, good work. And then I have 3 Mill Creek Entertainment titles to cap us off. Sticking with horror, a new horror movie is Deer Camp 86. This is a low budget kind of horror movie that like weaves in bits of like Native American like lore and like revenge and all this stuff. It's about a group of campers who they go off to a cabin to like hunt and stuff. The night before they get to the cabin, they stop off at a bar. A Native American woman bartender who they kind of become close to ends up getting killed, and they don't know it whenever they go off to their cabin. And there's this spirit that's kind of like following them and trying to like, they are like told not to do specific things while on this Native American land. And of course some of them do break this, and it kind of like devolves into like them just like, it's like a commentary on just like respecting Native American culture and lands and land rights and all this stuff, and all within like this low budget horror tapestry. I wasn't expecting much from this, and it kind of exceeded my expectations. It's still within the low budget confines. It works pretty well. There are some things that don't work for it, but overall, I think it's a pretty entertaining movie. The acting is very much like exaggerated. These people aren't like the best, like most professional actors, but they're very much caricatures, and they do what they need to do. And I could tell from like some of the like outtakes during the credits, people were having fun with this, and it's just like it felt like a group of friends trying to make the best with their movie that they're making. And in that respect, I give it a little bit of leeway, and I thought it was fun enough. And I guess my highest recommendation is I don't see myself like selling this. I think I'll probably keep it in case I want to watch it again, which is the best thing I can say about it. It does enough. But unfortunately, the best performance in this is the Native American woman who gets killed off early in the movie. I wish we could have had more of her. She was fantastic. But otherwise, it's a decent horror movie. If you're just itching for horror, Deer Camp 86, you can do worse. No special features. DTS 5.1 sound looks good, sounds good. This is Mill Creek, but they still can do good work occasionally, and this is fine. In terms of a new movie, they do a good job. I have a 2-pack of Once Around an Evening. Once Around has like Holly Hunter, Richard Dreyfuss, Danny Aiello, Jenna Rollins. And that one is about Holly Hunter, blah, blah, through reasons, ends up getting involved with Richard Dreyfuss's character, who's a little bit older than her and very much annoying. If you've seen me talk about the apprenticeship of Duddy Kravitz from Fun City Editions, you can know that he can sometimes be a handful. He's pretty much in this mode in this one too, but he's just like a guy who's like constantly doing bits and like just really being a nuisance, which she kind of loves for some reason, and it drives her family crazy. And it's about a family like kind of rift that evolves whenever she starts dating this dude. And there's some funny moments in here, there's some heartfelt moments, and it ends at Christmas time, which bumps it up a couple points. So overall, I liked it. But Richard Dreyfuss, he's a shit stain in real life now, I believe. He's at least said some really stupid things. And he's very annoying in this movie, but all the other people in this kind of lift this up. The other movie, Evening, It's a little bit more recent. This was done in the 2000s, and this also has a loaded cast: Toni Collette, Claire Danes, Vanessa Redgrave, Patrick Wilson, Hugh Dancy, Natasha Richardson, Mamie Gummer, Meryl Streep, Glenn Close, a lot of people in here. So this is about a woman who she's kind of like nearing kind of death's door, like, and she's reflecting back on her life, and you get to see the young version of herself played by Claire Danes, and learn about all the things that, all the drama that went back in her life. And then like you have her daughters who are like played by Toni Collette, and Natasha Richardson, and the more present that's kind of dealing with their ailing mother and trying to dealing with their own lives as well. You also have one of the people from The Bear in here, which I was interested to see. Eben Moss-Backrack, that's who his name is. He has a really small role in this movie as Toni Collette's boyfriend or whatever. And that is interesting to see him. If you're a Bear fan of The Bear, you can check that out. This movie overall, it feels kind of like it's riding on the coattails of like The Notebook in some sense, but it's fine. I didn't hate it. I didn't love it, but I like the performers so much that I was kind of like, this is okay. So I'm not feeling particularly passionate either way. It's decent. Will I think about it much after? No, but it's fine. So both of these are put on one disc. Some compression artifacts here and there, but overall the transfers are passable. But it's a Mill Creek 2-pack, so you have to keep expectations in check. It's not the best. But I don't believe either of these had gotten a Blu-ray previously, so if you want these on Blu-ray, this is how you get them. No special features. DTS 2.0 for once around, and DTS 5.1 for evening. So, yeah. My final title, it's been a long one, I know, is the Icons Unleashed, The Simpsons. I did my first Icons Unleashed release, which was the first one that Mill Creek released earlier this year, with Star Wars. This is The Simpsons. And with this one, there was 2 discs for this that release. This is 4 discs. So you have 6 episodes spread across the first 3 discs, and then a 4th disc just for special features. There's also interviews on each of these first 3 discs as well. As compared to the Star Wars disc, which had 6 episodes on 1 disc, and then all the interviews on the 2nd disc. So these are at least spread out a little bit more in terms of compression, which does help it. This is basically for any Simpsons fan who wants to know like anything and everything about the creation of this, especially the earlier seasons, but even a little bit later. From the people who worked on it, as well as people who like are uber fans of it. Like there's some podcast hosts who I really like, and I've actually seen them in person at a podcast festival in Los Angeles. They do some interviews, as long as some entertainment critics, and then just a bunch of people who worked on the show. A lot of great stuff. It's just, like I said, if you just want to know about The Simpsons, and if you love The Simpsons, it's a great release. You get to know a lot, and I love The Simpsons, so I loved learning about it. And the interviews that they include as special features are massive. There are 5 additional interviews, which I know doesn't sound like a lot. The shortest one of those is an hour and a half long. The longest interview is 3 hours and 19 minutes long, of just one person being interviewed. It's insane. So I think it's cool that they gave like these unedited interviews as special features, just for like uber fans who do not want to miss a moment of like any one particular person saying something. And audiovisual wise, this holds up pretty well for a Mill Creek release. So Icons Unleashed, The Simpsons, it's a good step up for this series, and any of these Icons Unleashed that they want to keep doing, I'll keep collecting, because I love a lot of popular culture and I like knowing how it's made. So great for me. We are done. That was a ton of titles. I try to get through them as quickly as possible. I hope you learned something. I hope you found something that you are anxious to dig into. If so, leave a comment in the comment section. Let me know what you're interested in checking out. Share this with someone that you think might enjoy this. Make sure you're subscribed to this channel, because there's tons of interviews and stuff, and additional to my weekly episodes of all of this. But I thank you so much for those who keep coming back week after week. I very, very much appreciate it. And I welcome any comments, suggestions, anything like that, as long as you're nice, because I'm thin-skinned and I need a gentle touch. But I appreciate you checking this out. I will be back again next week with a whole new slate of titles. I'm already working on it. It's going to be some great stuff. But until next time, enjoy these movies.
Monty, please go in the other room.
There is no other room. Music, Monty?
Well, I don't really think this is the time or place to...
How could you?
I told you.
So you want him for yourself now?
It was just a fleeting thought.
Is it gone?
Ladies, this is absurd. You are both so unutterably beautiful. Why don't we do the sophisticated thing and all sleep together?